Okay, there we go. Hopefully, you guys are able to hear me loud and clear. I do apologize for that delay there. I had to work out some kinks in the system here, but I did. I figured it out. I figured it all out by myself. But nonetheless, I am glad that you guys are here when you do come in. Thank God for each and every single one of you. Thanking God for this day. Uh, it is the day, of course, that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and I will definitely be glad in it. Um, Old school song used to say, "I'm glad to be in the service one more time." That was one of my dad's favorite songs, and there said he didn't have to let me live. Um, and I take that. Good morning, Sister Kelly. How you doing? Um, that was my dad's song. It would say, he didn't have to let me live, but I'm glad to be in the service one more time. Um, I say that because on the 13th of this month, I celebrate 44 years of long life, and I thank God for it. Not only do I celebrate 44 years, not only do I celebrate a birthday, I'm sorry, on July 13th, pardon me, but uh, my pastor, Bishop V. Ricardo Thomas's birthday is also on July 13th. Not only is his birthday on July 13th, uh, a fellow deacon and big brother of mine, Deacon Lawrence Ward, his birthday is on July 13th. I remember growing up when I had July 13th like all by myself. You know, nobody told God to put us in a church where the bishop and one of the lead deacons would have the birthday on my day. I'm like, this is my day. Wait a minute, you know. But I'm grateful. I love it though. I love it though. Both of these men of God are people that I admire seriously for their tireless um, work for the kingdom of God. The stuff that people don't see, they are in there at the church on off days doing. Good morning, Auntie Bev. And I thank God for that because that gives me hope that the things that I do um, may be found admirable in the sight of the Lord. So I thank God for their commitment to the cause of Christianity and for their work ethic. And I'm honored to have a birthday on the same day as them. I really am, really am. Um, Today, uh, wanted wanted to talk about something um, because I have in certain moments I have talked about it in pieces, but now I want to dedicate time to it, which is talking about faith. And I've also brought up a couple other things around it, but now I want to kind of center in on faith today, so we can my prayers that we get a clear understanding, not necessarily of what faith is, but how it can be applied. We might go into a what faith is thing later on down the road, but it's for those folks who have it, but there was a preacher at a funeral this past Saturday that talked about the but. He talked about the good side of the word but. I'm talking about the other side of that word, because depending upon what comes after that sentence could denote what you're referencing in the first. So, um, in this case, I'm dealing with the latter, uh, where that but is met with uncertainty, confusion, even doubt. So here we go. Uh, First and foremost, um, let's go to First Samuel 14th chapter. Um, First Samuel 14th chapter. Okay, so in 1 Samuel 14th chapter, you find some stuff that went down. Um, you have Jonathan, well, I'll just read through it here and then I'll kind of recap what went on. 1 Samuel 14, and I'm going to start reading originally. I'll start with the King James Version. We'll go there. 1 Samuel 14. We're going to go from 1 through 7. 1 through 7. Uh, 1 Samuel 14. Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said unto the young man that bare his armor, Come, let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. But he told not his father. And Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree which is in Migron. And the people that were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. And the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. There was the trick. Good morning, Teacher Nikki. Ooh, I'm glad you are here, Teacher Nikki. Man, I should have brought you on camera for this. Because this is right up your alley. But nonetheless, uh, so, and between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over, I'm reading from 1 Samuel 14, in the 4th verse. And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on the one side and a sharp rock on the other side. The name of one was Bozez and the other Sinai. The forefront of the one was situate northward against Michmash, and the other southward against Gibeah. Verse 6. Here we go. And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come, and let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. And his armor bearer said unto him, Do all that is in thy heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. I want to read those last two verses, 6 and 7 again, but I want to read them from the NIV because you got to see what just transpired there. Let's see if I can find the NIV version in this thing here. Okay, in the NIV, verse 6, Jonathan says to his young armor bearer, Come, let's go over to the outpost of these. Hey, good morning, Teacher Monica. Uh, Jonathan says in verse 6, we're in 1 Samuel, pardon me, we're in 1 Samuel 14th chapter, and I'm in the 6th verse. Now I'm reading it in the NIV. 6th verse, Jonathan said to his young armor bearer, Come, let us go over to the outpost of these uncircumcised men. First of all, Jonathan is talking a lot of smack, but watch what he says next. He says, Perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. Perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. Perhaps. Please get that word in your brain because I want to repeat that until somebody gets what Jonathan just says here. He's trying to go into the Philistines camp. You do remember who the Philistines were, right? The Philistine army, of which one certain giant belonged to, Goliath. And here's Jonathan, the son of Saul. You remember who Saul was, right? Saul was the king while David wasn't. And David was the one that Saul tried to give his armor to go fight Goliath. And David was like, nah, I can't use that. This Jonathan is Saul's son. So Saul's son says, Come on then. We will cross over toward, come on, let us go over to the outpost of these uncircumcised men. And then he says something amazing to me. He says, perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. That's where I get the title of what I wanted to talk about today. Uh, help me to move on my maybe. Help me to move on my maybe. Think about what he said there. In one sentence, he calls the Philistine army, of which Goliath belonged to, a bunch of uncircumcised men. He basically called them a bunch of punks, cowards, jokers, weaklings. In the next sentence, the person that he would need most earnestly to defeat the Philistines, he's not even certain is going to show up. See, here's one thing that I've learned. How people say, and that's why I tell people, be careful with that song. Good morning, good morning, good morning. The right reverend. But think about this for a second. Jonathan said, come, let's go over to the outpost of these uncircumcised men. He talks about the Philistines. But he's not even certain that the God that he feels should have his back is going to have his back. Because think about what he says. He says, perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. In the King James, he says, it may well be that the Lord acts on our behalf. Think about that. For Jonathan to have the temerity to call the Philistines cowards, punks, jokers, and suckers by saying, these old uncircumcised men. You remember somebody else said that. David. David was like, what do we get for beating this uncircumcised Philistine? And here's Jonathan saying the exact same thing. Jonathan's daddy, who was Saul, was the one that's going to give David his armor and say, hey, you are going over there and fight him. You need my armor. Because Saul wasn't going to fight Goliath. This is the same army. And Jonathan is Saul's son. And here's Jonathan saying, this whole crew is uncircumcised, weak, feckless, cowards, punks, wimps, children, babies, whatever you want to call it. That's what that meant. That's what that meant. And then in the next line, he says, perhaps the Lord will deliver. Let me tell you something. At first, I thought that was a contradictory thing. I was like, why is his confidence so high and his faith so low? I thought that those sentences didn't make sense together until I recognized something. His confidence was high because he was dogging the Philistines out to his armor bearer. The confidence was high, but his faith was higher than his confidence, actually. Because he said, perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. I thought by him saying, perhaps the Lord would act on our behalf, would make him weaker in faith. But actually, him saying perhaps, in other words, I don't know if God is going to jump in this fight, makes his faith stronger. Again, let's do this because I want to prove my point here. Y'all remember the story about the Hebrew boys, right? Y'all remember the Hebrew boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Y'all remember? I'm assuming you remember the story about the Hebrew boys. King said, heat up the furnace 7 times hotter. Boom. Heat, fire, hot. And then he got ready to toss those boys in, tied them up, got ready to toss them in. And they said, oh, King, we believe that our God is capable of keeping us, But if he doesn't, we still won't bow down. And we celebrate the Hebrew boys. We laud them as heroes for the amount of faith that they had. And here I was thinking that Jonathan did not possess that same faith because of the way that it looked. But I found out that I like what he said even better, because Jonathan's faith, it relates closely to mine. See, I didn't have the faith of the Hebrew boys to be that cocky. I didn't have that faith. Real talk. I didn't have that. But I did have the faith like Jonathan. Because see, Jonathan moved with faith and worry. Jonathan moved with faith and indecisiveness. Jonathan moved with faith and a healthy dose of fear. But again, though, here's the thing. How can you have faith and have fear? How can you have faith and be afraid? You can't have faith and be afraid. That is incorrect. See, we have to teach faith properly. We have to teach faith properly. You can have faith, for the record. You can have faith and be afraid. You can have faith and be confused. You can have faith and have questions. As a matter of fact, it's almost a prerequisite. Actually, no, it is a prerequisite for you to have faith and questions. It's a prerequisite. You can't have faith and be certain at the same time to that degree. Faith requires you to believe in something you can't see, something that you hope for. Again, I talked about the difference between faith and belief. Belief is for right now. I believe in you. Faith is I have faith in you for a thing. Faith is for the distance. Faith requires you to invest in the future. I have faith in you because I believe in you. Jonathan had massive faith because he had faith that said, I don't even know if God is going to do something in this instance. I don't even know if God is going to help. I don't even know if God will provide. I don't even know if God is going to make a way. Perhaps he will. Think about that. Jonathan said, perhaps he will. Here I am, Jonathan, talking to my armor bearer, and I just called the Philistines a bunch of uncircumcised men, and I'm going to move on perhaps. I'm going to go on the land of the Philistines based upon perhaps God will. Good morning, Charlene. How powerful, how incredible is that, that Jonathan was willing to move on the word perhaps. Thank you. I, See, this is exactly why, Nikki. I sure enough, when I tell you, when I was thinking of this and going through this, I was like, I should had a nerd to text Nikki and be like, you want to show up on this? Because here's the thing, and here's the part. Here's the thing. Jonathan was on perhaps, but his yes was sold out. See, there's a difference between your faith and your yes. There's a big difference because you can have Matthew 17. Matthew 17. Now we're about to roll with this thing. Matthew 17:20. Matthew 17:20. Actually, Matthew 17, Matthew 17:17. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. A boy that was a lunatic, as they called him, had demons in him. Uh, 8 verse 18. And Jesus rebuked the devil, And he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus on the side, apart, and said, Why couldn't we cast him out? Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. Now watch this. Jesus says, For verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto the mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Jesus said, if you have the faith the size of a sliver of mustard seed, if you have that much faith, you can say to the mountain, move, and it's got to move. Jonathan's faith, at a time where I thought his faith was weak, his faith was its strongest. How many of us, honestly, real talk, how many of us are willing to move on? Perhaps God might fix it. Perhaps God will give me this loan, so I'm going to go ahead and put this money in there. Perhaps God might give me this house, so I'm going to start investing in furniture. Perhaps God is going to let me make my business that I want to start great, so I'm going to quit my job. Perhaps God is going to give me the things that I need for my kids, so I'm going to start investing this money and holding it on the side, forsaking some other things so I can get this thing ready for my children. Perhaps God will. How many of us are willing to move on the word perhaps? Because again, it's not the perhaps, it's your yes that carries you over. And again, as teacher Nikki was saying, biblical counseling, you have to have a sold out yes. A sold out yes not only means that God, I'm going, irregardless, if that's a word. Some people debate it or not. I don't know if irregardless is a word. Forgive me. I don't think it is. But Jonathan, the sold out yes for Jonathan doesn't just mean that God, I'm willing to go, regardless of the cost, regardless of the circumstance. His yes in this case says, I'm willing to go even if I don't know you're going to do something. Who's got that faith? Who's got that faith? Whose yes is that powerful to where you say, God, I don't know if you're going to be there on the other side. I don't know if there's a ram in the bush like you had for Abraham. I don't know if you've got a fire extinguisher like you did for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I don't know if you've got a muzzle for a lion like you had for David. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to bless me when I start my new business. I don't know if you're going to bless me to pay for insurance when I just bought this new car. I don't know if you're going to bless me to be able to pay for my books and I just enrolled in class. I don't know, but I'm going. Who's got that faith? Who's got that faith? Because at first glance, it looks like Jonathan was punking out by saying, well, perhaps the Lord will. But his faith matches the faith that the Hebrew boys had when they said, "O king, we believe that God will, but if he doesn't, we still ain't bowing." Jonathan's faith right here. Jonathan told his armor bearer, he said, we will cross over. He said, let's cross over to the outposts of these uncircumcised men. Jonathan said, let's go into the heart of the Philistine camp. Good morning, Lisa. So thankful, Warren Nelson. Jonathan said to his young watch this though. Again, the Bible is specific for a reason, and I want to show you something that really flipped me out. Jonathan said, come on then. Or rather, Jonathan said to his young armor bearer, come, let us go over to the outposts of these uncircumcised men. Again, he's talking about the Philistines, called them uncircumcised. Remember, David did the exact same thing when he went to go fight Goliath, who ironically was in the same said army as this. And Jonathan, by the way, to make this soap opera even more fun yet again, Jonathan is the son of Saul, who when David went to go fight Goliath, Saul was like, here, take my armor because I ain't going to fight. You take my armor. So that's how this whole dramatic storytelling unfolds. And Jonathan, Damon, hey bro, Minister Damon Dixon. Hey, so Jonathan says to his young, watch this, his young armor bearer. Jonathan says to him, "Come, let us go over to the outposts of these uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. Perhaps." And then he says, "Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few." That's why I know Jonathan's faith wasn't low, it was actually high. Why? Because faith is the substance, the currency, the money, the evidence, the pure proof of things that you are hoping for, the evidence of things you cannot see. Faith and certainty do not walk hand in hand. Those are opposites. Faith, sight. We walk by faith, not by sight. It's not we walk by faith and not by fear. It's not we walk by faith and not by worry. It's not we walk by faith and not by doubt. No, you can walk by faith and have doubt. You can walk by faith and have fear. You can walk by faith and have worry. You cannot walk by faith and have certainty. Yeah, I said it. Can't walk by faith and if you're certain about it, you don't need faith. I am certain that there's a thing of chapstick in my hand. I don't have to believe God that there's chapstick in my hand. I'm certain I have it. But if my lips are stone dry and I don't see no chapstick around, that's when faith kicks in. You like, I got faith. I know I've got some chapstick somewhere. But in that same breath that I know that I've got chapstick somewhere, in my mind, I'm worried that I can't find it. Using a simple example, I'm worried that I can't find it. I'm worried that I can't find it. So you can have faith and be worried. I'm trying to help somebody's faith because we've been taught so long that faith is Superman. Like, girl, have faith. And what we're really trying to tell people is have courage, be brave. We're not really trying to tell them to have faith because the way that we're saying have faith, we're saying it to the degree that they should immediately buck up and look strong. As we say, faith it till you made it. That ain't necessarily how faith works. I submit to you that faith comes, not that God gives you this portion of it, but faith usually comes with a healthy sized dose of I don't know what's going to happen next. See, the way we learned it with the Hebrew boys is we took their faith and their bravery as that's how faith is packaged. That faith comes automatically built in with bravery. It does not. It does not. It does not come with us. It does not come saddled with bravery. That's not. That's bravery, and that's great. That's fantastic. But bravery and faith are two different things. I'm trying to because this is where the devil gets us. I'm saying this. I'm not saying let your faith be weak. No, I'm trying to help you because a lot of us think that if our faith isn't super strong to the degree that we feel like, we can do anything or whatever at that particular moment, then we have somehow failed God. And that's the lie that Satan will try to tell you in your ear. You don't believe enough. You ain't got enough faith. Your problem is your faith. No, your problem is not your faith. The problem is hardly ever your faith. Say that again. The problem is hardly ever a faith issue. It's belief. It's belief. Because watch what Jonathan says in that 6th verse. He says, perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. In the King James, it says, it may well be that the Lord will act on our behalf. He just might do something. I don't know. That's faith talking. Faith is saying, I really don't know. Because faith is stepping into the uncertain. But don't forget the first word of that, stepping. That means you took action. It was not a corresponding action. You took action. Faith is an action. Yeah, yeah. So with that faith, Jonathan says, perhaps the Lord will. Perhaps the Lord will. And then he says, now we get to the good part. Then he says, nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or whether by few. How awesome is that? He said, look, I don't know. I don't know what God is going to do. I have zero idea what God is going to do in this moment. I have no idea. But what I do know is that I'm willing to believe God. I'm willing to believe God. I'm willing to trust in God. And he moves on a perhaps. Think about that. He moves on the word perhaps. Wow. Now comes the really cool part. Now that Jonathan is saying perhaps the Lord. In other words, I don't know what God is going to do if he's going to do something. Now comes his armor bearer. And watch what his armor bearer says. Jonathan's young armor bearer. I can't make this up. This is fire. His armor bearer says, do all that you have in mind. His armor bearer said, go ahead. I am with you heart and soul. This young dude that Jonathan is with just heard Jonathan say, I don't even know if God is planning on doing something. And his response to Jonathan's faith and his response to Jonathan's doubt is, do what you're going to do. I'm with you. I'm ride or die. I'm in there. It's whatever, basically. He's saying, do whatever you're going to do. Yo, you ride, I'll ride. You fly, I'll fly. Let's get it. At first, I asked you guys a question. How many of you have the faith? How many of you have the faith to move on perhaps God will? How many of you have the faith to move on maybe God will? How many of you have the courage, the guts to start your business and you don't know what God is planning, if he's going to do something? How many of you have the faith to launch out there and go get that car, go get that house, and you don't even know if God is going to do something for you? How many of us have that faith? How many of us have that faith to say, God, I'm going to go with or without your definitive prophetic vision for what my future is? I'm going out there. I'm going to give you, because I've given you my sold out yes. Because I've given you my sold out yes. I'm going. I don't know what you're going to do, God, but I told you I would trust you. I told you I believe in you. I told you, God, I depend on you. Maybe you might do it. Maybe you might give me the money for my college education. So I'm going to put this money down on these classes. Maybe you might give me the money for my insurance. So I'm going to go ahead and buy that car. I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know what you're going to do, God. You have not given me a definitive answer on this, but I'm going. That type of faith to God makes God go, I got to do something. I've got to do something. Because they've got confidence and I haven't even told them what I'm going to do. Because think about this. Think about this. Moses on Mount Hebron, when he met God, and God said, go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said, well, they're going to ask who sent me. Who do I say sent me? God said, tell them I am that I am sent me. And Moses had more excuses. He said, look, I stutter. And God was like, well, I have your brother and he's going to help you. God taught Moses what to say, and Moses was still nervous. Go back a little bit more. Go back to Noah. God gives Noah the commandment to build an ark, gives him the measurements, tells him it's going to rain. Noah, in matter of fact, in the book of Hebrews, the Bible says, wow, by faith, Noah moved with fear, because he never saw rain before, because nobody else on the earth saw rain before. And here is Noah moving on the instructions of God. Jonathan, flash forward to our chapter here, our verse and chapter in 1 Samuel. Jonathan does not have God telling him in his ear, I will teach you what to say. Jonathan does not have God saying, go tell them to let my people go. Jonathan does not have God saying, I'm going to send you an Aaron or your armor bearer. Good morning, Jill. Jonathan has none of that. Jonathan doesn't have that. God has not said anything to Jonathan. And Jonathan looks at the Philistine army and tells his young armor bearer, we about to go hit these boys hard. We gonna go into their outpost and hit the Philistines, these old uncircumcised Philistines. And perhaps God will jump in. Maybe, it may well be that God will jump in. He had the faith to move on a maybe. Again, how many of us have that faith? We want to launch off into our ministry. We want to launch off into our singing career. We want to launch off into acting. I applaud actors and actresses and business owners, because you had some faith to move on a maybe. Some of you had that word from God saying, start this, do that. Jonathan didn't. Jonathan didn't. Why? Because he says in that 6th verse, perhaps the Lord will. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Perhaps God will do something. But even more so than Jonathan's faith, look at the faith of his armor bearer. And the Bible is specific. It says his young armor bearer. Go back to 1 Samuel 14:7. His armor bearer said, after Jonathan said, maybe the Lord will help us. In other words, again, I don't know. Maybe the Lord will help us. Jonathan's armor bearer said, look, do all that you have in mind. Go ahead. I'm with you heart and soul. Whose faith is crazier? Jonathan's faith for moving on, maybe God will, or his armor bearer saying, brother, I'm with you no matter what. Don't get you some friends like Jonathan's armor bearer. There we go. There it is. Get And I know that's not really proper English, but get you some friends that will ride with you like Jonathan's armor bearer. Because that young man said, it's all good. Whatever you want to do, bro, however you want to go about it, I'm with you. Whew. His faith ain't even based on a maybe. His faith is based on Jonathan's maybe God will do something. I need some folks around me that when I have a crazy idea, they're crazier. They like, yeah, let's do it. You want to know what that faith is? That faith is like the four boys or the boys that was carrying the lame man, and they got to the door where Jesus was inside of that crowded room, and one of them said, forgive me for saying that, one of them said, takes Puff, what about the roof? You need that guy in your crew. That guy is crazier than all y'all. But you know what? His faith is ridiculous. And I shouldn't have said takes Puff. I'm sorry. But somebody had to be crazy enough to say it. Somebody had to be insane, local enough to say, what about the rooftop? And because he was crazy enough to say, what about the rooftop? The other boys was like, let's get it. Let's go up to the rooftop. And they tore open the roof of a place they don't own. Think about that. And because they tore open the roof, because they climbed on the roof of a building they don't own and tore open the roof of a building they don't own, they were able to lower their friend down right at the foot of Jesus Christ. That that is faith on a maybe. Because now you're going, maybe we can try the roof. Maybe we can tear open the roof. Maybe we might be able to lower him down right at the foot of Jesus without nobody moving or pushing the basket or stabbing underneath the basket. Maybe this will work. Get some friends in your life that are like Jonathan's armor bearer. So when your faith is met with doubt, uncertainty, fear, they are crazy enough to ride with you. Again, I always bring up two groups of people that I know. One is my wife's group, the Brown Golden Girls. The other is Pastor Mickey and Teacher Nikki and all of them. They had the Flossie Posse. Somebody in that group is crazy enough to say, let's get it. Right, Lisa. Determined, determined friends. I'm going to go a step farther. Crazy friends. Crazy faith friends. You need those folks in your crew. Jesus had them folks. Hey, good morning, Tam. Jesus had those people in his crew. Like, hey, let's go for it. Man, we've been with you this far. We ain't about to leave now. Think about it. Jesus was like, what, y'all gonna go away too? They was like, look, we in here. We with you. You need some folk that's gonna do something. Jesus told them when he first met him, he's like, let's go out into the deep water. Let's go out there. And he said, cast your nets out in the deep. One more time. Same spot. Peter stands up like, listen, I don't mean to pull rank here, but I'm the pro on this boat. And we ain't caught nothing all day. But exactly that guy. I'm about to come back to that, Charlene. But Peter was like, but since you said it, we throwing these nets one more time. Peter doubted. Peter doubted. Right, right in the face of, literally in the face of Jesus Christ himself, Peter doubted him. Peter said, you know what, man, look, I ain't caught nothing out there all day. But in an effort to increase morality and to show you that I'm about this life, let's throw these nets one more time. Everybody in the group needs that guy, that one person in the group that's crazy enough that's willing to take a hit of faith. I won't call it a blunt, but take a hit of faith and say, what about the roof? That's willing to take a hit of faith and say, let's toss these nets out here one more time. That's willing to take a hit of faith and say, let's cross over to the Philistine outpost, like Jonathan did. And his armor bearer's faith was even crazier because he said, after hearing Jonathan say, I don't know if God is going to do something, his armor bearer said, look, I told you from day one, I'm down with you. And I'm going with you no matter what. I'm with you heart and soul. Now let's take that word soul and spread it out really quickly here. Because what is your soul? Your soul is your mind, your will, your emotions, and your intellect. Now repeat that sentence in 1 Samuel, pardon me, in 1 Samuel 14 and 7. He says, do all that you have in mind. His armor bearer said, go ahead. I am with you heart and mind and will and emotion and intellect. He said, man, I'm locked in with you. How many of us have friends like that guy? How many of us have friends like that dude? Who has that guy, that girl rolling in their crew right now that's going to look while we carrying you and you lame and everything, that's going to look, take a hit of faith and say, what about the roof? What? What about the roof? Sure, we don't own this building, but what about the roof? Okay, let's go up there. Maybe there's a hatch. Oh, we're on the roof. There's no hatch. Y'all think we should tear this roof open? Yeah, let's tear it open. You need those folks in your crew. Thank you, Jill. Yes, it's like you better have, listen, I want that same faith to inspire, but we got to get the right idea of what faith is and what it is not. Faith is not bravery. Faith is not bravery. Your bravery is your bravery. Your bravery is not faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Jonathan had faith and didn't even know if God would come through for him. He was willing to move into the Philistine. Jonathan's faith was so great that he was willing to move into the Philistine outpost to face the army of them based upon perhaps God will help. His faith was so crazy that he was willing to move on, maybe God will do something. His faith wasn't even like the Hebrew boys' faith, like I said, because their faith was, we believe that God will deliver us, but if he doesn't. Jonathan said, I don't even know if God is going to do something, but I'm going anyway. And then his younger armor bearer said, well, do what you got in mind. Do what you're going to do, because I'm going. And then, now watch this, just to wrap it up, in the 8th verse, Jonathan said, come on then, we will cross over toward them and let them see us. Today, read Actually, I'm going to read the rest of it. I'm going to end it with just reading the rest of this, and you should be able to play along at home. First Samuel, I'm going to go back to the 6th verse. Remember, Jonathan said to his young armor bearer, come, let us go over into the outposts of these old uncircumcised men, cowards. Perhaps the Lord, maybe God might do something. I don't know. But I know nothing can hinder God from saving, whether it be by many or whether it be by few. And his armor bearer looks at Jonathan, who just said, maybe God will do something. And his armor bearer looks at Jonathan. He squares up in front of him and says, do what you're going to do. Matter of fact, do all that you got in your mind. Whatever plans you got. Why? Because I'm with you. Now, verse 8, Jonathan says, come on then. Sometimes somebody's faith, let me do this here. Let me do this here, because now I'm getting into it here. I'm making a note here. With your faith, hey Lise, with your faith, you need somebody out of the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. You need somebody in your crew that's willing to confirm your level of crazy. Get somebody in your crew that's going to be the one that's like, yeah, let's get after it. You need to get that person in your crew. You need that person in your crew that's not going to stop because you don't stop. You need that person in your crew that's crazy enough with you to match your level of crazy, if not exceed it. And say, if you're willing to believe that you can beat this disease, if you're willing to believe that you can go back to school, if you're willing to believe that you can go get the car, that you can go get the house, that you can go and get married, that you can save your family, that you can have a healthy relationship with your kids again, if you believe that I'm crazy enough to rock with you, that was his armor bearer saying, I'm with you. Do all that you have in mind. I'm riding with you. I'm with you heart and soul. That's powerful. Now, Jonathan says in the 8th verse, come on then. Again, we're in 1 Samuel 14th chapter. I'm reading from the NIV. Jonathan says in the 8th verse, mind you, Jonathan is moving on the word maybe God will do something. He doesn't know. He says maybe God will do something. In the 8th verse, Jonathan says to his armor bearer, come on then. We will cross over toward them. Watch this. This is why his faith is insanely crazy. He said, we will cross over and let them see us. We will let them see us. Then, now we're getting into the good chunky parts here. Because he says, if they say unto us, wait there until we come unto you, we will stay where we are and not go up to them. But if they say, come up to us, we will climb up, because that will be our sign that the Lord has given them into our hands. Think about this for a minute. He does not have a clue whether or not God is going to do something. But now he's saying, if this happens, then I know it's God. That is faith. You can have faith and doubt. Faith and doubt are not the opposite. Faith and fear are not opposites. Certainty, sight is the opposite of faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. He says, I don't know if God is going to do something, but tell you what, if we get over there and they say, come up to us, that's the sign that God is with us. Verse 11. So both of them showed themselves to the Philistine outposts. Think of, again, I got to remind you that they are the only reason why they're moving is because Jonathan said, maybe God will help. Maybe God will be with us. The only reason why they're going into the Philistines' camp, they're out, the actual outpost, not the outskirts, the outpost. They're going right into the heart of the Philistine camp. The only reason why they're going there is because Jonathan said, maybe God will do something. The only reason I'm going to get this car is because I believe that God might do something. The only reason why I'm going to go back to school is because I don't know, maybe God will do something. The reason why I'm going to pay and start looking for this house, maybe God will do. How many of us really have that kind of faith? That is literally the definition of a grain of a mustard seed, where you are so unsure whether or not God is going to do something. That faith. That's what that faith is. See, we celebrate mustard seed faith until it's game time. We got songs about, I got mustard seed faith. Yeah, okay. When did you have to use that faith? Let's continue reading. So both of them, mind you, they're moving on the maybe. They're moving on a maybe. Bishop Todd, good morning, ma'am. They're moving on maybe God will do something. Again, First Samuel 14, and we're at verse 11 now. Mind you, the only reason why they're even in the Philistine outpost right now is because Jonathan said, maybe God will show up. Maybe. He's not even, I can't get past that. He's not even certain that God is going to show up, and he's still going. And then his younger armor bearer said, I'm riding with you. I'm with you, heart and soul. All because Jonathan said, I don't know. Maybe God will show up. Maybe God will do something. Perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. It may well be that God does something. He's so unsure. And that is faith. Whew. Faith is being mm, faith is being certain that you're unsure. It is the substance of stuff that you are hoping for. It is the evidence of something that you can't see. You're holding on to something you can't see. One thing about faith is that you will be uncertain because you don't know. You can't see it, but you're holding on to what you can't see. And you're saying, here is my evidence. Literally, as I got my fist here is my evidence. I don't have my college degree, but here is my evidence. I don't have the car keys yet, but here is my evidence. Literally. This is what faith looks like. I don't have any car keys to shake yet, but here is my evidence. I don't have a degree in my hand, but here is my evidence. That's powerful. Jonathan says, maybe God will do something. And because he was willing to move on, maybe God, his armor bearer said, let's ride. Again, I'm going to say this for the 8 millionth time, and I'm probably not going to say it again until the next time I say it. Get you some friends in your life like Jonathan's armor bearer, who will stick by you and say, if your faith is that crazy, I'm crazy enough to ride with you. Heart and soul, ride or die. That's the first real mention that I've seen of ride or die in friendship. That's a friend that'll stick closer than a brother right there. He said, do all that you have in mind, Jonathan. I'm with you heart and soul. That's ride or die friendship. It's that same friendship that Jesus alludes to when he says that's a friend that sticks closer than any brother. Verse 11. So both of them showed themselves to the Philistine outpost. Look, said the Philistines, the Hebrews are crawling out of the holes they were hiding in. The men of the outpost shouted to Jonathan and his armor bearer. Watch, check this out. They said, come up to us and we'll teach you a lesson. The men of the outpost, the Philistines, y'all remember? Said, come up to us and we will teach you a lesson. Go back to verse 10. Jonathan says, verse 9, he says, if they say to us, wait there until we come to you, we will stay there and not go up to them. But if they say, come up to us, we will climb up, because that will be our sign that the Lord has given them into our hands. Verse 12, the men of the outpost shouted to Jonathan and his armor bearer, come up to us and we will teach you a lesson. So Jonathan said to his armor bearer, climb up after me. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel. Have you ever started moving on something that you didn't even honestly have a clue whether or not God was going to do it, and then all of a sudden you started seeing the hand of the Lord moving in your life? How many of you have launched out onto something and you weren't positive of whether or not God was going to, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere God did? Jonathan says to his armor bearer, climb up after me. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel. Jonathan climbed up using his hands and his feet. I'm in verse 13 now, with his armor bearer right behind him. The Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer followed and killed behind him. Jonathan put his armor bearer behind him. His armor bearer, because back then the armor bearer literally carried the armor. He put his armor bearer behind him. And then Jonathan goes first. Jonathan goes first. Kills the Philistines. And all those who weren't dead, his armor bearer cleaned up the rest. In that first attack, verse 14, it says, in that first attack, Jonathan and his armor bearer, two men, two, Jonathan and his armor bearer killed some 20 men in an area about half an acre. Whew. Two guys, Jonathan and his young armor bearer, who said, I'm crazy enough to ride with you, on a maybe, on a perhaps. Those two killed some 20 some odd men in an area about half an acre. Verse 15. When you are willing to have that type of faith, to where you're willing to move on, perhaps God will do something, maybe God will do something, and God sticks his hand, or as the old folks say, God put his foot in it, all of a sudden that action, that faith sends notice to the rest of the enemy's camp. Look out, I'm coming for you. Why? What happened? Verse 15 says, then panic struck the whole army, those in the camp and those out even in the field, and those in the outposts and raiding parties. This is my part right here. And the ground shook. Why? Because Psalms 18, David said, in my distress I cried to the Lord, and my cry came unto his ears, even into his temple. Then the earth shook and trembled because God was wroth. Right here, the ground shook. It was a panic sent by God. Whew. Have faith the size of a sliver of mustard seed. Have faith to move on. Maybe God will. Maybe he will. Maybe God will. That's where that faith needs to be, to the point where you say, maybe God might do something. It may well be. Perhaps God will. Again, it's the same measure of faith, if you will, that the Hebrew boys had, but it was also slightly different. Because the Hebrew boys said, we got confidence that God is going to do something. But if he doesn't, we still won't bow down. And that's great faith. But I submit to you that Jonathan's faith was a little crazier than the Hebrew boys. Because Jonathan didn't even have that part. Jonathan said, all I know is I'm going over there. Maybe God will show up. Maybe. If you want to be encouraged in your faith, read 1 Samuel. That entire book. Read. You'll find out what faith looks like. But especially go to 1 Samuel 14 and read the account of what happened with Jonathan and an armor bearer, a young armor bearer. This is for those folks. This message is for those who feel like their faith isn't enough. Because again, we've been taught so many times that faith is like bravery. Have faith, girl. You gotta have faith. You know, you gotta have faith. No, faith isn't bravery. Bravery is bravery. You can have faith and be afraid. You can have faith and doubt. And again, that's the lie that Satan tries to tell you, is that if you got faith and you afraid, then you ain't got faith. Because faith over fear, it's not how faith works. It's not how it works. I'm trying to free somebody up today because I want you to understand your faith is working, especially when you are afraid. Ask Noah, who is recorded as one of the great men of faith, through by which the elders obtained a good report. Because the word of God says in Hebrews, by faith, Noah moved with fear and built an ark. With fear. By faith. With fear. Noah built an ark. And forever his name is etched in history because by faith he still moved. By faith, Jonathan moved. Didn't have the confirmation. And he said, I'm going anyway. And his armor bearer said, well, if you going, I'm going. By faith. Get some folks in your crew that's got that kind of faith. That say, if you riding, I'm riding. Ride or die for real. And that's the first, to me, the first real true definition of ride or die that I've ever seen in the Word of God. That was actually spelled out like that. He said, I'm with you heart and soul. Whew. Get some folks in your life that's about that life. Get some folks in your life that's about that life. Y'all know what I mean. Faith. It's all right if you doubt. It's all right if you're nervous. It's all right if you're afraid. That's why faith works. Faith isn't for the stuff you can do. Faith is for the stuff you can't do. Faith isn't for what you see. It's for what you don't see. Faith isn't for what you have. It's for what you hope for. Get that faith. Chances are you already have it, because there are times in your life right now, there are some of you watching right now are probably thinking, I know I want to start that business, but I haven't heard anything from God. I know I want to move, but I just don't know. I know God is listening. God is watching, and he's saying, move. I'm not trying to push you into debt. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to push you into debt, but I'm trying to push you into your faith and let you know that your faith isn't wrong. Your faith isn't wrong just because you're afraid. Faith isn't wrong just because you're nervous. The enemy is going to try to tell you that. Satan is going to try to tell you that you ain't got faith. You don't really believe God because you too afraid. Faith is blah 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 blah. And again, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and the love and the sound mind. That does not mean that fear is not going to come. That does not mean that if you have faith, you can't have fear. And I know perfect love casteth out fear. Yes, God will cast out the fear, but you still got to have the faith. And in order for the fear to be cast out, fear has to be present. It has to be cast out. If there was no fear, there would be no reason for it to be cast out. See, because we always like to throw that line out there. Casts out fear. No, there's a reason why fear has to be cast out. The same way that Jesus rebuked the devil in that young man, some fear has to be cast out. And that's done by perfect love. So it's okay to have faith and be afraid. It's okay to have faith and have fear. It's okay. Because once your faith runs smack dab into the love of God, that love, that perfect love, like I said, when you think about the word love, sometimes you can interchange that word for the name God. That perfect God will cast out fear. So bring your fear with you. There's the message. Bring your fear with you. You got faith and you still afraid? Bring your faith and your fear. Bring both of them to the altar today. Let's meet God in prayer with our faith and our fear. Let's see what remains. You've got the wheat and you've got the chaff. You've got the wheat and you've got the tares. Let's bring both to God and see what's left. Let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, we come to you right now, God. We come to you with our faith. We come to you with our fears. We come to you with our faith. We come to you with our doubts. We come to you with our faith, and we come to you with our concerns. We come to you with our faith, and we come to you with our worries. We come to you with our faith, and we come to you with our indecisiveness, God. But we ask you right now, you choose which one you accept and which one you cast out. For we know that you will cast out all fear. Your perfect love, God, you will cast out all fear from us. You won't let it come nigh to us. You will cast it out. And at the end of it, only our faith will remain. And as you move out fear, replace it with your love. And we will have the courage to move on a maybe. We will have the courage to step forward on perhaps, God. We will have the courage to begin to walk on it may well be that you do something. We will have the courage to move, to dream big once again, to reclaim the mantle of the church in the United States. We've got the faith for it, God. And we bring our faith and our fears, doubts, concerns, worries, stress, our panic attacks. We bring all of it to you. And we ask you to accept our fear and destroy everything else. Accept our faith, rather, God, and destroy everything else. Accept our faith, our size of a mustard seed type faith, and cast out the fear. Help us, Father, to exercise our faith, even when we don't know what you're going to do. Help us to move. We give you our sold out, yes, and we meant it. Now let us take our faith and attach that to our sold out, yes, and begin to move forward. This is our prayer, God. This is our plea. In Jesus' name, and for our sake we pray. Amen. Um, for those of you who have fear, doubt, worry, and you need somebody to link up with in prayer directly, do it. Find your one friend that's crazy. You know, the one friend, like I said, that had the guys that were carrying the lame man, and one guy in the group, once they got to the door and they couldn't get in where Jesus was, the one guy took a hit of faith and was like, "What about the roof?" Find that friend and pray with them today about your idea. Confess your idea to them and say, "Hey man, look, this is what I'm thinking. Hey girl, look, this is what I'm planning. I really do want to go back to college. I really do want to start a business. I really do want my marriage to work right. I really do want my kids to come back home instead of being out in the streets crazy. I really want to get my life together. I really want to dedicate myself to doing my singing career. I really want to be an actor. I really want to be an actress. I really want to be a mechanic. I really want to be an electrician. I really want to be a doctor. I really want to be a nurse. I really want to be a lawyer. I really want to be an astronaut. I really want to do these things, and I just need somebody to agree with me in faith." Find that person that you know is crazy enough to say, "Let's get it." Find that person and pray with them today. Seriously. What is it that you have faith for but haven't moved on? And you just need somebody to confirm your craziness. Somebody have faith to say, "I'm going to take a substance that is free, water, and sell it." And somebody behind that person had to confirm it and say, "I'm going to invest in that." I always said, you want to know what faith looks like? Faith is the man or woman that created bottled water, because they said, "I'm going to take a substance that is so neutral to all of mankind and is free everywhere, and I'm going to bottle it and sell it." That's faith. Now, let me show you what crazy faith is. Crazy faith is the second guy or lady that made bottled water, because that person had to come along and say, "I'm going to sell water, and watch, my goal is going to be to tell people that my water tastes better than his water, tasteless water." That, folks, is crazy faith. That person immediately eliminates the first person who made bottled water, because that person came along and said, "My water tastes better." Oh man, I'm gonna teach about that Monday. I'm gonna deal with that Monday. Better water. God, this came to me. Woo, better water. Y'all, I pray that you guys have a great weekend. Uh, I pray that God awakens the dream in you again, that God refreshes the dream in all of you, that He restores you. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. Better water. Yeah, I've already talked about the Samaritan woman, where she was at the well with Jesus, and Jesus said, "Hey, you get some of this water, you'd never thirst again." Better water. He had to convince her that the water he had, she didn't know him from anywhere. The water that he, God, yeah, I'm teaching on that Monday. I'm about to mess up. Wow. That's how God works. If you just start going, God will give you, pardon me. I don't know if y'all can see that. Better water. Monday morning around 6:30, ish, we're going to talk about better water. That's what we're going to deal with. We're going to deal with better water. Tasteless, scentless water. Mother Bibbs, good morning. God bless you. We're going to talk about better water. Amen. Listen, I'm about to go. Hey guys, listen. Up at our church, we are giving away food today at our church right now. Um, Come up to our church. Somebody put I never get our address right. I'm always blowing it. What is the goodness gracious? I gotta find the address before I mess up. I be done said something wrong, and y'all be like, what is 18037 Gricksdale? That ain't our church. What is goodness gracious? I never get our address. I know we're on the corner of Hamilton and Geneva in Highland Park, Faith Tabernacle Church. Uh, Good morning, Ingrid. Hey guys, my friend Yingers Bork is watching. Her and her husband Nick Bork were the great man and woman of God that I first went to official ministry school under. And they taught me so much stuff. That's where Pastor Brent Hansen was teaching, and he taught about positioning in prayer. 16548 Hamilton. Yay! Thank you, Teacher Nikki, because I would have messed that up. Y'all be all up on Gricksdale, like, why am I on Dexter? What am I? 16548 Hamilton. Come up to Faith Tabernacle Church. Guys, we are giving away food. We're giving away food. Ton- Tons of it. I'm sure you'll see it live on Facebook somewhere. We are giving away a metric ton of food today. So I pray that you guys have a blessed day. If you know, listen, if you know somebody who needs food, send them up to our church. No strings, just come get food. I pray that you guys be blessed. Have a great weekend. Listen, it is my birthday weekend. All me, myself. I'm kidding. I'm lying. It's my birthday. It's Deacon Larry Ward's birthday. It's Bishop's birthday. And Deacon Ward's twin brother's birthday. I used to have July 13th all to myself. Done. That's over. Got to celebrate it with the bishop. But it's a great birthday weekend, guys. Listen, I love you all. Have a great weekend. Please be back here Monday morning around 6, 30-ish, 45-ish, somewhere in there. I'll be online. We're going to talk about better water, y'all. Love you guys. Have a great weekend.